Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. The NFL regular season has officially concluded, and with that comes, finally, the NFL playoffs, specifically Wildcard Weekend. Formerly Super Wildcard Weekend, now I guess just Wildcard Weekend. The NFL quietly dropped the Super out of the Wildcard name. We've got a great slate of games ahead this weekend, but of course, before all the other games, we always have to start off with the Saturday 4:30 game, and for some reason, that always happens to be the Houston Texans. That's the game we're covering in today's video. We have the LA Chargers against the Houston Texans in Houston, Texas, and as always, guys, I've got some great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day, a new week, and a new postseason upon us comes great new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I'm not going to go ahead and lie to you guys and say this is the most exciting matchup of the entire wildcard round or the entire playoffs for that matter. Obviously, the Saturday 4:30 game is usually reserved for sort of the wonkier, maybe more lower scoring, less interesting games. Despite that, though, there is still some great value here. And honestly, it isn't a bad matchup. You have two young quarterbacks in Herbert and CJ Stroud. You got two solid NFL defenses. I'm hoping for a pretty solid game in this spot. Let's go ahead and start breaking down the matchup here between the Chargers and the Texans. Let's go ahead and jump over to the NFL dashboard. By the way, guys, if you want access to this dashboard or our NBA dashboard, you can go ahead and find them on GuyBostonSports.com. If you become a member, you get access to all of these sheets here, which provide a lot of data and a lot of insight into each and every NFL playoff game, each and every NBA game. They're really cool, and it's super cheap and affordable. I'm pretty sure the membership for the overall package, which is NFL and NBA, get access to all these sheets, plus some exclusive articles and whatnot. I think it's like $3.99 a month. Literally cheaper than a coffee from Starbucks. So I would definitely recommend doing that to get access to all of this insight here that we provide over on GuyBostonSports.com. But as always, guys, the picks are always 100% free. All right, so for this game, we got a 4:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. The spread is set for Chargers -3. The over-under is set at 42.5. Now, like I mentioned earlier, guys, at first glance, what these two teams both have in common is that they both have really solid defense. Now, here's the overall averages here. The Chargers, the number one scoring defense in the NFL, giving up 17.7 points per game. The Texans, 14th scoring defense, giving up 21.9 points per game. But scoring defense doesn't always paint the picture. If we scroll down below here to DVOA rankings here, the Houston Texans have the third best defense in the NFL in terms of DVOA. Third best against the pass, third best against the rush. Specifically, their pass rush this season has been really, really phenomenal here. So Houston's defense is the one thing you can really kind of give them claps for this year. Their defense is off the charts ridiculous. Like I said, the Chargers have the number one scoring defense. If you look at DVOA, they're not as good as that first data point might lead you guys on, but they are still a top 10 defense in terms of DVOA, sixth best against the pass. They do have a little bit of a weakness there with their run defense, but overall, this is a pretty solid defensive team. Now, where LA has the clear advantage in this spot is their offense, and I wouldn't even say the Chargers have a great offense, although in terms of DVOA, they actually do have a top 10 offense, or top 12 offense, I should say, top half of the league. Probably a better way to put that. They are a top 10 team in general in terms of DVOA. The Chargers have actually built a really nice passing game, really due to the fact that rookie Ladd McConkey has really exploded onto the scene this year for the Chargers. They don't really have a great receiving core, but McConkey has given them a North Star to go ahead and look to in the passing game. And obviously, Justin Herbert, he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, borderline top 5 when he's really on his game. Now, I'm not going to take too much time diving into the picks. My first pick right off the bat, we're just going to throw it at you before we kind of go further into the breakdown of this game. I'm telling you guys, I'm going with the Chargers here -3. I was kind of going back and forth because obviously Houston is the home team here. You know, they still have CJ Stroud. This is still a really good defensive team, but I am rocking with the Chargers here -3. I just think Houston's offense has been so bad, and even their defense lately has not been as good as those overall numbers seem to suggest. So we're taking Chargers -3. We're getting it on DraftKings for -105 odds. If you guys do have Bet365, you can get this for plus money, but it's -105 odds on DraftKings. Really good numbers. Now look at the spread numbers this year for these teams. The Chargers, an 80% cover rate against the spread overall this season at the last 10 games. 71% cover rate overall this year against the spread. 65% cover rate this year at the -3 line, which is pretty good. Houston, the other side, now they are a 65% cover rate at this +3 line, but just a 41% hit rate against the spread overall this season. And again, if we refer back to the dashboard, you can go ahead and see that here in the top left corner. Win rate 64.7% for the Chargers, 58.8% for the Texans. Again, a nearly 71% 51% cover rate this year for the Chargers, a 46.7% cover rate for Houston. Now, here's where things get interesting because Houston obviously is the home team in this matchup. Well, although they do have a 62.5% winning rate at home this year, just a 42.9% cover rate at home this season. And for the Chargers, surprisingly, they've actually been a better road team than they have been a home team. A 66.7% win rate on the road and a whopping 77.8% cover rate on the road this year. So you have a clear advantage right there. But guys, the real reason why I'm running the Chargers here is that the Houston Texans are kind of limping into the playoffs in really bad form. Even though they're the home team, even though they are still really talented defensively, I just can't trust Houston to take them here in this spot. Look at the last 3 games to close out the year for the Texans. Offensively and defensively, they both massively dropped. Now, the Texans did win a meaningless Week 18 game against the Tennessee Titans, a team that was trying to actively lose to get the number 1 overall pick. But prior to that, though, the previous 2 weeks, now granted, it was Kansas City and it was Baltimore, 2 of the best teams in the AFC ahead of them. They got crushed in both those games, specifically the Baltimore game on Christmas. That was an embarrassing showing. You have 2 teams coming in certainly different directions. Look at the Chargers, their last 3 games. They beat the Broncos, they beat the Patriots, and they beat the Raiders. Now, obviously, Patriots and Raiders, 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, but they did handle a Broncos team that obviously is a playoff team, a really solid playoff team at that. You have 2 teams coming in different momentum building situations. The Chargers, look at their last 3 games, and again, I understand 2 of those games were against the Raiders and the Patriots, but the number 1 scoring offense over the last 3 games, second best passing offense in the last 3 games. Across the board, a lot of great data. Even defensively, though, top 10 scoring defense, top 10 passing yards allowed, top 10 rushing yards allowed. Again, I'll say it one more time. The Raiders and the Patriots offenses are in that data point, but the key thing is the Chargers are coming in with some positive momentum, 3 straight wins and 3 really important wins, dominating wins at that. The Texans, on the other hand, red across the board here. I mean, this is, 14.7 points per game. That's 28th in the NFL over the last 3 games. Their passing offense has completely fallen apart, mainly due to injuries, right? They don't have Stephon Diggs. They don't have Tank Dell. A lot of injuries. Their offensive line has been brutal this season across the board. But the one worrying thing is that even their defense over the last 3 games has been really bad, specifically their run defense here. 27th. And now, Derrick Henry has a lot to do with that. He had a massive game on Christmas versus them, but 153.3 rushing yards allowed per game. Their pass defense hasn't been solid. Their turnover rate's gone down. Everything has gone down for them over the last 3 games. Like I said, this Houston team is literally limping into the playoffs. And to make matters worse, their overall home numbers this year have not been really good. Offensively, the 24th ranked offense this season when they're playing at home, just averaging 20.1 points per game this season at home. Their rushing game completely goes out the window, which is a really problem because the one area where you can attack the Chargers is kind of their running game. Again, they're a really solid defense overall, but their run defense is where they have a few weaknesses. And unfortunately for Houston, their running game just hasn't been very potent overall. Even their overall numbers, 15th in rushing yards per game. This has not been a very solid running offense, and that's the one area where you could probably find some success versus the Chargers. I just don't think they're going to be able to take advantage of that in this spot. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. The LA Chargers are 8-1 and 88.9% hit rate against the spread in their last 9 games as a favorite. The last time they failed to cover was versus Tampa Bay about a month ago, back on December 19th. A little less than a month ago, I guess, but they've done a really good job. Now, granted, a lot of the teams you see on this list here are bad teams, right? The only real, Denver and Cincinnati were the only 2 teams where they played solid teams, where they actually took advantage and beat them and covered the spread. But still, regardless, I just like the Chargers a lot more in this spot. I think CJ Stroud, the sophomore slump is for real with him. Just a lot of advantages for the Chargers in this game. Look at the Texans' offensive line numbers this season. We can go ahead and scroll down there. The Texans tied for 29th in sacks allowed, 3.2 sacks allowed per game. The Chargers, top 10 team in the NFL in terms of sacks per game, averaging 2.7 sacks per game this season. QB hits, tied for 22nd. Houston Chargers tied for 13th. The one area where they do, I think they'll be okay. The Chargers don't really hurry the quarterback too often, but the Texans are tied for 31st in QB hurries, tied for 31st in tackles for loss. So you got a weak offensive line, an inconsistent running game, 2 of your top 3 wide receivers out, and you have a quarterback who's kind of been in a sophomore slump. Now, part of his sophomore slump is due to those factors, but all of it, to me, equates to not a very good matchup here for the Texans. Now, the one area where you could, again, maybe get some luck is maybe the Chargers offense stalls, which I could possibly see happening, especially with how good Houston's defense is and has been overall this year. But I just can't bring myself to take the Texans. I love the Chargers in this spot here. I just think they're the better team. They're in better form. They're the healthier team. I just think their offense has really found their stride in the last couple weeks with J.K. Dobbins returning as well. I like the Chargers a lot, so taking them -3 is my first pick. I know I rambled on there a little bit, but I had to ramble because it obviously sets the stage for the rest of my picks in today's video. My second pick, I'm going with the under here, 43 in this spot, which we're getting for minus 130 BetMGM. Of course, you could go 42.5, which is the actual line, or you could go one up more and go to 43.5 here, which probably is the better play, which was what the line was originally. It has dropped down to 42.5 because so many people are riding the under here. You can get this one for minus 135 on ESPN Bet. You know what? We'll go with that. We'll go under 43.5, minus 135 on ESPN Bet. Minus 130 versus minus 135. I'll sacrifice that for the extra half point. So we'll go under 43.5, minus 135 odds here. Again, referring back to the dashboard, both of these teams were big under teams this year. See the over hit rate this season, just a 47% hit rate on the over for the Chargers this year, and just a 35% hit rate on the over this year for the Texans. When you go ahead and narrow that down even further to the home and away rankings, right, the over-under hit rates have not been good. On the road this year for the Chargers, there's a 33% cover rate on the over on the road this year. So that means about a 67% cover rate on the under this year when they're playing on the road. For Houston, really bad. Just a 12.5% over hit rate when they play at home, meaning, translation, almost an 88% cover rate on the under when they're playing at home this season. Looking at the home and away numbers, it makes sense. Houston's offense when they played at home this year has been atrocious, 24th in points. Again, we already talked about this where you see a lot of red there. The Chargers' away offense has also dipped compared to their overall offense. Still I say average. 23.2 points, 12th best in the league on the road. Rushing game is okay. Their passing game is okay. But these are two really solid defensive teams. And both, again, I know the Chargers offense is the better offense in this spot, but I still wouldn't call the Chargers a great offensive team. I do think Houston's defense should slow Herbert and this Chargers offense down a tad, although I do think the Chargers offensive line is matching up really great. Now, obviously, Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter have been incredible this year for the Texans, but the Chargers with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater have really good offensive tackles on the sides there, so I don't know how potent the Texans are going to be able to get their pass rush, how potent it's going to be, how often they're going to get to Herbert in this game because their offensive line is so good. Whatever the case may be, I just don't think Houston's going to score a lot of points, and although I think the Chargers will win and cover, I don't see the Chargers having a massive scoring performance. This game reads like a really low, maybe like a 24-17 or a 21-17 type game. I just don't see either side really having an offensive advantage big enough where they're going to score a ton of points. I like the Chargers in this spot. I still don't think they're going to score a ton of points, so I like the under here at 43.5. And one more thing here on this pick, guys. The insights provided by Outlier. The under has hit in 12 of the Chargers' last 16 games on the road, a 75% hit rate. All right, guys, wrapping up the show here. We got two player props to close out today's video. We're going to kind of fly through these to finish off strong. Our first player prop here, we have Ladd McConkey over 5.5 receptions, which we're getting right now for minus 138 odds on FanDuel. It is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. Now, the overall season data is not fantastic here for McConkey, just a 38% hit rate on the year. But if we narrow this down to just the last 10 games, you see a 60% hit rate over the last 10 games, averaging 5.8 receptions per game. Look at if we go ahead and narrow this even further. So just the last 7 games here for McConkey, he's cashed the over in 5 of his last 7 games, and in each of his last 7 games, he's had at least 5 receptions. So he's getting thrown to a lot. If we look at the receptions and the target shares in these games, the last 7 games for him, 24%, 15, 41%, 19, 18, 25, 22. So he's getting a healthy amount of targets when they throw the football. And they actually do throw the ball a decent rate. They do run the ball more than the league average. But they throw the ball a decent amount. And Ladd McConkey leads this team with a 22.8% target share on the season. He is Herbert's go-to guy. He's his safety blanket. He's everything for this team. He's become such a great weapon for this Chargers offense. And I like the spot here. I know the Texans defense, obviously don't give up a ton of receptions to opposing wide receivers. Look at all year long versus wide receivers. They're actually 8th, only giving up about 11.5 receptions per game. But even let's say the Chargers were to only complete 12 or 13 passes, I think it's a pretty surefire bet that McConkey would have at least half of those. So I love the spot here for McConkey. A little juice there, minus 138, not the best value possible. But I think if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to rely on throwing the football a little bit. And if they throw the football, McConkey is a pretty good bet to go ahead and get targets. So love Ladd McConkey here over 5.5 receptions. And then wrapping things up, guys, we have our anytime touchdown player prop video. If you've ever seen anytime touchdown player prop play, if you've ever watched any of my single game NFL picks videos, typically what I do is I do an anytime touchdown player prop giveaway where I pick a player, you type the name of the player down below in the comments, and if he scores a touchdown, I give one lucky commenter a $25 Amazon gift card. We'll go ahead and do that again here. So we're going J.K. Dobbins, anytime touchdown, comment Dobbins or J.K. or any variation of his name down below in the comments, and if he scores a touchdown, one lucky commenter will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. So J.K. Dobbins, anytime touchdown, we're getting that for plus 130 odds over on FanDuel. The data's not awful. You see 5 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, a 50% hit rate, averaging 0.7 touchdowns per game. So far in 2024, a 54% hit rate on this play. 7 out of 13 games this year, he's scored a touchdown, an average of 0.69. Pause for the applause. Touchdowns per game this year. Now, we do have a little bit head-to-head data. Of course, this is last year as a member of the Baltimore Ravens, but the last time he played Houston, he did score a touchdown in that game again. That was last year. Very different circumstances for both teams. But yeah, pretty good value here for plus 130 odds too. Again, they're going to lean into this running game quite a bit. You see the league average. They run the ball a very decent amount. Look at the rushing attempts this season. J.K. Dobbins, even though he's missed a healthy amount of time this year with injuries, still a 42.1% run share, 195 rushing attempts per game 195 rushing attempts per game, he'd probably be dead. 195 rushing attempts this season. Look at the red zone rushing attempts as well. 38.4% red zone rush share percentage. 38.4%. 28 red zone rushing attempts this season. So pretty good numbers across the board here for J.K. Dobbins. For plus 132, I think it's pretty good value for him to go ahead and score a touchdown at any point in the game. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. My next single game video will be the Commanders and the Buccaneers on Sunday night, so make sure to go ahead and tune in for that one. But until then, guys, hope you're all winners. Enjoy this Saturday game. Look, I know it's not the most exciting game of all time, but I do think we still have some pretty good value in this spot. Should be a decent battle between two young quarterbacks, two solid defenses, and two decent head coaches as well. So we'll go ahead and see you on the next time, guys. Hope you're all winners.